This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
Boom to the hay, all you sports fans out there. This is the OMSR. Welcome to, with your brief but very concise host, Will the Alternative ESPN Sports Room. Limited space here on this, the OMSR set. Being 6'4", 275 is kind of dicey as well. I swear, as sure as I'm standing here, I'm going to knock this very pricey tripod over one day. And then I'm going to lose it Scandinavian style. All right. Throwing in my 2 cents, hopefully it's worth a quarter for you. A little 2-minute intro so you know the highlights coming up. Dr. Coaching Carousel, as it relates to the segue to the great Bill Snyder retiring. So there's a lot of coaching changes going on. Interesting that I just realized this looking at it. This is always ad lib, but I know what I speak. Having played the game, and I haven't been doing this for a while. I'm surprised, and therefore by a while I mean years here on YouTube. I am now technically a sports journalist, and none of my colleagues here mentioned this about Bill Snyder. The greatest Bcs Travesty ever in year 1. This is after all, the R being the operative letter in the acronym, OMSR. So Clay Helton gets rid of T. Martin. It's like offense wasn't the problem there, dude. Defense was. No offense to the players playing there now. I think sometimes the pundits like, well, getting the school back to its former whatever. And it's like, coaches, players in the past might take a little bit of umbrage with that. So let's segue to the great Coach Snyder. All right, so here's some pertinent facts going on here. But with all due respect to Pollock, great Georgia defensive lineman, my man McElroy there at Bama. This is for 92 national championship, by the way. What they failed to mention, how the BCS ticked off everybody. Okay, no offense to the aforementioned T. Martin, who won. Kansas State was 11-1 the year before. Who won that national championship? Nebraska, the last national championship before the BCS era, leading into our current CIP system, which everyone's got to agree is better, Georgia notwithstanding. So year 2 of Michael Bishop being at Kansas State. Year 1 of the BCS. Number 1, undefeated. What happened? They lost in the Big 12 championship game when it was actually the Big 12. And Tennessee slides into number 1. Florida State slides into number 2. Kansas State slid down to 5 or 6. That was a 33-30 double overtime game, by the way. To the great R.C. Slocum, Coach Slocum at Texas A&M. So they didn't slide down a whole lot in the rankings, but they didn't get their just rewards like they would now. But here's the kicker. You know who they got to play? An unranked 6-5 school. Year 1 of the BCS, it's like hashtag what the H. You know what I'm saying? And how was that even possible, all of Coach Bill Snyder? The Big 12 was the power conference back then. Now you can all laugh, especially when I say Colorado was respectable. But you had powerhouse Nebraska, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Texas all of Coach Makovic, Ricky Williams, one of the first Heisman. I assume I'm speaking to a lot of Gen Xers like, oh yeah, I remember all that when we were in our 20s and the 90s. You millennials, you can look it up on Wikipedia, but, statistical facts in the past that you didn't experience, it's just not the same. Just probably a little vignette on, why the human race keeps screwing up sometimes. Anywho, he was able to recruit because the Big 12 was the power conference, and on a down year, only second to the SEC. And so all of these BCS snafus where the SEC slid in because USC got beat a couple times by a below 500 Pac-10 then school. Let's not forget the backyard brawl. Hey, thanks a lot, Coach Wannstedt. You do a great job there at Fox. That's when Pittsburgh decides to show up, screwed up for West Virginia. There's a lot of sports pain from the 90s and the early aughts as it relates to the BCS. Reason he couldn't get it done on his second go-around is because the Big 12 just ain't the Big 12 back then. All right, I said my piece. Thanks for watching.
We're back on College Football Live, and after 27 seasons and 2 different stints at Kansas State, Bill Snyder is stepping down as head coach. He recorded 9 seasons with at least 10 wins, including 4 straight from 97 to 2000. All other Kansas State coaches combined for just 1 such season. So as we welcome you back, Greg McElroy and David Pollack, the results speak for themselves here, guys. When you think about David Snyder, we'll start with you, Pollack. What comes to mind? Excuse me, Bill Snyder. Who's David Snyder?
Bill.
He doesn't exist.
We can
Yeah, I can relate to
very
it.
similar.
Yeah, you caught yourself in real time. It's good.
Just look at the graphic, please. In all seriousness, and listen, that's one of the greatest coaches of all time. And I know everybody wants to go championships, and you want to talk about that stuff. You don't win championships at Kansas State. What he did at Kansas State and how he improved Kansas State. Not once. He retires. The place goes back to being a mess, comes back and fixes it again. He was 1 play in '98 away from playing for a national title at Kansas State. Had opportunities, Greg, to go elsewhere. And if he'd have went to LSU, like Nick Saban from Michigan State, he would have won national championships. He was the epitome of discipline. These teams were always one of the least penalized teams in the country, always played great special teams, always made you earn everything you get. I mean, he's literally, I know he's not going to go down in history as one of the best ever, but I honestly think he's one of the best coaches to ever coach.
Yeah, he's a great coach. Very few have done as much as he's done with less. And what I appreciate most about Bill Snyder is his willingness to do things differently. Like taking a job at Kansas State where it's very remote location, there's very little in-state talent. He had to figure out a way. He had said, all right, I'm going to go try to get transfer players. I'm going to go get JUCO
Junior
players.
college.
I'm going to bring them from within. I'm going to develop them. I'm going to maybe identify a guy that's being recruited as a corner by the big schools. I'm going to put him at quarterback. Like he has done a really good job of doing things differently. That coupled with the values that he instilled in every single one of his players was just remarkable. So he leaves a legacy that is rivaling some of the best of this generation and for many generations before it.
So many great things to be said about Bill Snyder. One of my favorite things about him is that when you're on the field with him as a sideline reporter for his game, he will never stop for the interview, so you must keep up with him. And there have been times when I've done Bill Snyder games where I have been in a full sprint trying to keep up with him. He is always full of so much energy and life as he's led this Kansas State team. Play more to come.
Big guys up front, letting the little guys move around and make plays. Okay, like you love seeing a big behind in front of you when you were playing linebacker.
Yes,
they get beat up, blocked, and when you're running back and a quarterback, you want to see big shoulders in front of you.
Right.
And you got to have big guys to win.
Well, a big guy certainly has been Bill Snyder. He's done a fantastic job all those years, overachieving, I think, with Kansas State. Did announce his retirement. A great run here, John, for a guy who, as I said, got the most, I don't say with the least, but always got the best of his players.
One of the best coaches ever in any sport. He went and took Kansas State from literally nothing to a program of respect. Then he leaves. Kansas State goes back to nothing. He comes back and he brings them right back up to that level of respect. I mean, that is phenomenal what he's done. And I think about the programs and the character and the culture that he built and the teams that he had. And every time I think about Kansas State, I think about toughness. I think about execution. I think about hard-nosed football. That means that discipline. That's the standard that he set. That is awesome to be at. No one understands how hard it is to recruit in Kansas.
No, and he's gone and done a great job of bringing in junior college players to fill the voids that he's missed in recruiting. But it's the culture that he's created, the real culture of accountability and toughness and discipline and a real family atmosphere. I mean, everybody there is joined at the hip. We played them in the Alamo Bowl a couple of years ago. So got to speak
Bill
about
Snyder Family Stadium.
Coach Snyder, his family, and his team. And just quality through and through. And, my hat's off to him. Congratulations on a great
Surprised he didn't do better at
UCLA. Too, right? Bill Snyder would find that guy who other schools had.
Mel Roberson, Darren Sproles.
They were them, and he was able to get the best of those.
Those great brother, DBs. The aforementioned Michael Bishop.
Just how much more better he could have been. Who knows? Great job at Kansas State for Bill Snyder. All right.